steps I take from my bed to the floor. 5, 6, 7, 8. Will today be rough or will today be great? 9, 10, 11, 12. Lately I've been going through hell. 13, 14, 15, 16. Today's the day. Are you coming? Are you sick of being normal? I'm sick of being average. I'm sick of being mortal. I'm about to be a savage. I see a lot of things that I want, I will have them. I got a new mindset that I just established. I'll march through the cold with the nails on the pavement. I'll shovel that coal just to get out the basement. My story will be told, helping others make changes. I'll be so bold, they will watch in amazement.
Am I gonna face it? Am I gonna chase it? Am I gonna start over? I keep waiting. Time is limited, quickly fading. Get my mind right, it's my time to take it. Am I gonna face it? Am I gonna chase it? Am I gonna start over? I keep waiting. Time is limited, quickly fading. Get my mind right, it's my time to take it.
Foot up on the pedal, pushing hard to the metal. Make a deal with the devil. Channel rage through my vessel into something that is special. Energy of a rebel, going up a level. I just wanna be greatness. I could feel changes, turn a new page and tie up my laces. I will be the bravest, break out of my cages. I will not be nameless, I will not be aimless.
Am I gonna chase it? Am I gonna start over? I keep waiting. Time is limited, quickly fading. Get my mind right, it's my time to take it. Am I gonna face it? Am I gonna chase it? Am I gonna start over? I keep waiting. Time is limited, quickly fading. Get my mind right, it's my time to take it.
What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Locked In Podcast, episode 217. As last week, bringing back my brother, Rob. What's up, bro?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. What's going on, everyone? What's going on, Steve?
What's going on, bro? I like how you got in the tag down there, you got your real estate group listed, bro. That's what's up.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Always got to promote your brand, right?
Of course, bro. Gotta represent, man. Check out Rob for any of your. So Rob, you're an agent too, right? Like I know you're a real estate agent. Do you work with buyers and like sellers?
Correct. Yeah. Okay. So I'm also a licensed agent in PA, and I also do in Jersey as well. Have a partner I work with in Jersey. So yeah, licensed agent and also a real estate developer. Hence real estate development, real estate group.
Exactly. Out of curiosity, man, like are PA and Jersey reciprocal? Or do you have to get like separate licenses? Like
you got to get separate licenses. So for me, I work with a partner, and we just we both use our licenses. He used mine PA, he uses his in Jersey. We just work off each other.
That's what's up, man. That's what I thought, because I thought like PA's like Massachusetts, New York, like there's like a certain few states that are reciprocal, but
right. Yeah, PA and Jersey are not reciprocal, even though we're so close. Makes no sense.
I know. You would think, right? I would think like New York, they wouldn't be, but yeah, it is what it is. But thanks for taking the time, bro. I know this is a topic that's like right up your alley, man. So what we're talking about tonight, guys, is we're talking about real estate. What we're talking about is renting versus being a homeowner. Some of the pros and cons that kind of come with both. There's downsides and there's upsides to each, depending on your financial situation, or ultimately like the freedom level that you're looking for as well. So we'll dive into that tonight. Yeah, that's mainly going to be the topic, but a good one nonetheless. anybody who's watching. I'm not sure how, like, I know we'll have some viewers, but I know it's the holiday coming up and everything like that. So I know people are super busy with their families and everything. But just want to welcome in anybody who's watching. If you're watching on YouTube and you're not already subscribed, you know what to do. Hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell to turn notifications on. We release new episodes every week related to personal development or sports. If you like that type of content, you don't want to miss it. If you're watching on Facebook, I'm assuming you're already part of the community, so thank you. Still hit that like button. It really helps us out with the algorithm. YouTube or Facebook, either way, if you see something you like or want to contribute to the conversation, feel free to comment. YouTube, I can throw your comments on the screen. Facebook, I can read them out loud. Either way, appreciate it, and it really, really helps us out over here. And then just enjoy the show, guys. So I won't waste anybody's time. We'll just hop right into it. It's me and you, Rob. I know Mario was in the promo as tentative. He's not going to make it, and I don't think Dante is either. But Rich should be hopping on at some point as well. So it might be the three of us in here. But for now, me and Rob. But all right, guys. So pros and cons: home ownership versus renting. This economy is crazy right now, so it kind of depends on your budget and like what you can essentially afford, or what your essential like level of freedom of what you want to do, or just ultimately what you want to do goes. So some pros and cons of renting versus home ownership. So I guess I'll start with one, and then Rob, if you have any insight, you can drop too. So I'll say obviously one of the number one ones that if you can afford to purchase, a home versus renting. Well, two things I can tell you is one of the cons of home ownership is there's typically much more upfront costs for home ownership, even though there are programs nowadays for down payment assistance and stuff like that. There's typically more upfront costs than there is to renting. Renting usually is like your first, last, and deposit, but like home ownership requires usually a down payment, closing costs, things like that, even though there are assistance programs. So that's a con. One of the pros of home ownership is your equity. So you can build equity in the home versus renting. You can't do that. Rob, you have like any just off the for renting or home ownership?
Yeah, it's right on point. I think the biggest thing with the con of home ownership is the upfront costs. Usually you have a down payment that's associated with a mortgage that you're planning to get to buy a house. And the down payment, I mean, like Steve said, there's a bunch of programs. If you guys want to find out more, you can always hit me up. I know a bunch of programs that help first-time home buyers. But if you just look at it from a traditional sense, we got FHA and we got conventional. You got to put either 3.5% down or 20% down, or sometimes conventional can be 5 to 10% as well. But traditionally, it's about 3.5% down, 5% or 20% or 10% around that range. And 10% of a $200,000 house is quite a bit. So the upfront cost of owning a house is definitely the biggest con with that. And then another thing, I guess another con with home ownership is, maintenance. You gotta maintain the house. If something breaks, the roof breaks, you gotta pay for it to fix it. Plumbing, you gotta pay for it to fix it. It's almost like maintaining your car. You're maintaining an asset. You gotta put up money to fix it, make sure everything's good, and that can deter a lot of people. So that's definitely a con for sure with home ownership. A con for renting, as Steve said further, you're putting your money into something that's not like it's not as yeah you're getting the benefit of living somewhere, but it's not going to anything. It's not You're not building any equity in anything. You're basically paying off. If the landlord has a mortgage, you're paying off his mortgage or paying off his asset down, his debt down on his asset. While it's convenient, that's a pro of renting for sure. The convenience, the flexibility, you're not stuck to a location. And also you don't have to take care of any maintenance. It's usually the landlord that takes care of all the maintenance. But at the same time, long term, let's say you rent for 15, 20 years, you spend, let's say for math purposes, let's say it's 1,000 a month, you did it for 20 years, that's 12,000 a year, right? And then you do it for 20 years, you add the math up, all that money is not going to come back to you. So
Right.
that's what we were saying with the equity. You're not building anything. Your money's not going into anything. It's just going, for you to live and pass time. So
Exactly.
that's my 2 cents on that.
No, great points, Rob. Yeah, no. So basically, that money that you could have put in for those 20 years could have been going into your mortgage, could have been going into you building equity, essentially. So that's the plus side of home ownership, the downside of renting. And the home costs, man, I can't tell you how many people I know that'll buy a home and in the first year, how many different things go in the home. And that's the thing that a lot of people don't always take into account is like, yeah, they might get an inspection, a very thorough inspection, and still something can go. So most people I know that in real estate, they say don't if you're gonna go down payment and closing costs and everything into a home, make sure that you're not spending every single thing you have. Make sure you still have a nest egg of money still stashed and saved, because you just never know when something's going to go in a home. Versus renting, usually it's minimum if not zero costs for anything, because like they, the landlord, they take care of, in your
Right,
rent. So
right.
you for sure have to and the freedom aspect too. So that's a pro to renting, right? Is usually it's much more easy. You have much more freedom typically when you rent, if you decide to switch locations or move. One of the other downsides I would say, or I would actually say the pros to renting is sometimes you might be able to rent in a really nice area, but you might not be able to afford a home in that area. So that's another
Exactly.
thing. You might
Exactly.
actually be able to afford the rent, but a home, if you actually look at the home values in the area, you may not be
Right.
able to. So
Right. For sure. Yeah, 100% agree. Like you want to you want to live downtown, try to buy a house downtown. That's millions of dollars, but you can rent a house downtown. You can rent an apartment downtown, 15, 1600, 1800, 2000 a month. But buying
right.
a spot downtown costs you a lot more. So really, I think it depends on your where you at in life, your strategy. I think renting is really good for the short term, and home ownership is good for the long term. So it really depends where you at. I think it's subjective.
100%. In either situation, just make sure you're not over leveraging yourself. That is absolutely critical, because you'll get stuck if you're over leveraging yourself on rent, per se. You're going to be stuck in the cycle of, say, your rent is 50% of what you bring home or more than that. You're going to be stuck in a cycle of where you're continuously renting, never being able to save up enough money to buy a home and build equity. So it's like that's how I think people get stuck in these, they get stuck. They could be renting, like Rob said, for 20 years and never ever have ever purchased a home and ever built equity in their home. Now, some people, they're fine with that. Some people are actually okay with that. If you like to travel or move a lot, hey, renting just might be the option for you. Everybody's different of how they look at things. But if your ultimate goal is to eventually, purchase a home, just be careful to not over leverage yourself. And that actually goes vice versa. That goes for home ownership too. You don't want your mortgage to be, the good thing is there's usually a cap on a mortgage too. Like you're not going to be able to go like, I don't know, what is it, like 44% or something like
Yeah,
that.
over 47%. Yeah.
47. So there you go. Yeah. So, but still, even 47% is a lot. Like if your
Hmm.
mortgage is half your income, you're really, what do they say? You're going to be house poor. That's like the word they say. Like,
Right, for sure.
so that's just money management, understanding your budget, understanding what you can afford. Typically in the traditional sense, you want your mortgage to ideally be 28%, and then you leave typically like another 8% for other expenses. So if you have a car note, any other debts or obligations that you have to pay, you want to make sure that your monthly payment, that's actually not just I think that's like your monthly payment. Like that's with property taxes and everything factored in, like 28% ideally.
Right. I mean, and for me, I'm a little biased, obviously. I think home ownership is the way to go. Like I said earlier, it does depend on where you're at in life, your strategy with short term, long term. But to me, I'm always leaning towards home ownership because of the cons. To me, the pros outweigh the cons. My pros for home ownership, like we said earlier, equity building. That is key. Every time you make a mortgage payment, you're reducing the debt on your property, but at the same time, the value of your property may be going up over time. So as you're reducing the debt on your property and as the value goes up, the difference is your equity that you own in the house.
Yep.
And that equity you can use either with a HELOC or when you sell 20 years down the road, you're going to get it right back. You get that money right back. So like
Yep.
you said with the earlier scenario, you paying, let's say your mortgage is $1,000 a month, and you paid for 20 years. When you sell your house, when you move somewhere else, you're gonna get all that money back plus more
Yep.
because your house went up in value. So, like I said, to me, I'm always leaning towards home ownership. I think just the equity building, the tax benefits,
Yep.
the ability to possibly even have a passive income. Let's say you want to move, you can always rent out your house, and then somebody will pay the rent, and that will also be paying your mortgage will bring down your debt as well. So I
Exactly.
think the pros outweigh the cons by far. Yes, the upfront cost is a lot more. Yes, you're not as flexible, but I think the pros is worth it.
I agree with Rob on this one. That's where I would lean too. I'm a little biased to home ownership. That's the ultimate goal for me too. I think that's where I lean. For sure. Another thing too, that a pro, dude, that's great points there in terms of renting out too. Like I know people that'll use this like a spare room as like a B&B and stuff. You know, you could just or Airbnb or just rent out a room. Like you can always. That's the thing is like when you purchase a home versus renting somewhere. Obviously, you rent somewhere, you have no control because it's not you, it's not your property. Even though you're paying rent, you don't own anything in the home. So that's the key, ownership. You get to own something versus like 20 years, like Rob said, you build all that equity, you get not just the equity of the money that you put in, but you also get your house value went up, in 20 years, you get that the proceeds from that as well. Um, so when you say you rent for 20 years, you can't sell anything. There's nothing to sell. It's
Yeah,
not your
you just
property.
leave. Yeah,
Yeah, you
you
just
just
leave,
leave.
and the landlord gets all the rent that you gave him over 20 years. That's it. Um,
Right, right.
Another pro of like owning a home versus rent is rent can continue to go up as the economy goes. Now, if you have like say like a 30-year fixed rate, mortgage, that the payments are going to be steady throughout those 30
Facts.
years, depending, and it
Right.
won't fluctuate depending on the market. So that's a pro too. So if you're able to, get the closing costs, get the upfront costs, still have some money left side, and you go homeowner route, you can be comfortable to understand that your mortgage payment will be steady through those. Obviously, there's other different like ways of mortgage, like there's different types of, but the standard mortgage is usually like a 30-year fixed rate. That's usually like a
Right.
standard mortgage.
Right. Yeah. Your payment will stay close to the same throughout the whole time. I wouldn't say exactly the same because
Right.
your taxes can go up, your
True.
insurance can go up, but your principal and your interest stays the same. So,
Exactly.
like Steve said, it's going to be very close to what you started with over 30 years. It won't change much unless taxes will shoot up or insurance will shoot up. It won't change much, but rent, yeah, you don't know. The couple years, your lender could just hike the rent up, and then there's really nothing you can do.
I've heard it so many times. I've heard like, landlords not even making crazy improvements to the buildings and just hiking the rent up. You know what I mean? Just to,
Hmm.
for whatever reason, they can do that too, because guess what? They own the building. So it's like, or they own those rooms. So it's those apartments, like they can do whatever they want.
Right. And I'm a landlord myself, so trust me, I understand. Like I try not to raise the rent on my tenants, but at the same time, I gotta go with the market.
Yeah.
Um, so if they're good people and they've been with me for years, I usually try not to, but you know, you gotta go with what the market demands.
Yeah. You try to stay competitive, but then also not put yourself out of your tenants too. You know what I mean? Losing your tenants. Cause it's like, obviously if you try to get too competitive or too cute, they can find something, so I get it, dude. You have to kind of do what you have to do sometimes for yourself too, but also, ethically, if they're good tenants, you try to.
Right. And speaking from a landlord experience, that's why I said there's a benefit to renting as well, because like I said, my tenants, they don't have to worry about anything. Anything that breaks, mess up, I got people go in there and fix it up. They just, sit back and relax and, enjoy the space. So there is a benefit to renting. We will never say like renting's bad. I'm not saying
Right.
that. So it's just, is a pros and cons to each side. But yeah, there's definitely a benefit to renting. They just sit back, enjoy the space. They don't have to worry about fixing the plumbing, the HVAC, nothing. Just sit back and enjoy it. So yeah,
Yep.
that's the benefit side. Speaking from a landlord experience.
Yep. So yeah, exactly. And unless you know how to, unless you're good with your hands to the point where you know how to fix these types of things, which not everybody is a general contractor at heart that knows how to fix everything. So if you don't know how to, like, I know a guy that yesterday he was just telling me, he's from my church. He's like, honestly, I can literally fix anything. I could build you a house if I needed to. Like, he's like, I've been doing this for like, 40 years since I was 15 years old. Like, he can essentially, like, he's like a GC. He can build a home. He can build a boat. He can do that, like, or like be able to fix a boat, anything on a boat. Like, but unless you're like really good with your hands and know what you're doing, like, you're gonna have to shell money out. And yeah, like Rob said, if you don't have the budget to do that when you rent, that's the plus side to it, is you can just sit back and
enjoy the space. Yeah,
exactly. It's either the landlord is going to be fixing it, or the landlord is going to have GCs, general contractors, who are going to be able to come in and fix what
right, right.
Yeah,
Yeah, and most landlords that are not slumlords, they want their tenants to have a good experience, So
right.
we tend to, whenever they have a request, we tend to always, try to fix it, make sure they're having a good time, make sure they're comfortable, make sure the place is clean, at least the hallway is clean, because we
Yeah.
want them to stay. So
Yeah. And then even if they do leave, you're going to have a great experience. They're going to recommend people to you because they had a fantastic experience with you,
right.
And that's what you look for sure. But yeah, no. So those are some of the plus sides and downsides. So it's I'm trying to think what other ones. What do I have here? Freedom to move. I had, like we said, fewer financial compromises. Even though there are assistance programs, like Rob was saying, if you need any info on those, reach out to Rob. He can help you out for sure, especially in like the PA, Jersey, area. So if you're in these states, or even I was gonna say PA and Jersey. I know in Philadelphia, like they have a lot of people that get like my boy Tariq does the same thing. Like he's always talking about it, like first time home buyer programs. Some people too, like if you're military, VA loans like can help too, like no down payment and stuff. There's a lot of different things.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, the VA loan, if you're in a vet, you get 100% covered. It means the lender covers 100% of the sale price. You just got to pay for the closing costs. So that's a great deal.
Yeah.
FHA, 3.5% down. Great deal. The lender covers 96.5%. You only got to come up with 3.5%. And then,
Yeah.
like Steve was saying, there's a bunch of programs in Philadelphia, but they help first time home buyers, give them money, free money to help them buy a house. So I think it's dope.
Exactly. So that's the thing. It's helps you kind of get your feet wet and get into that first home that you're looking for. So that's the thing. Like until you actually like look and work with a realtor, I will always say like you can do all the research you want online, but until you actually sit down with somebody, you may think like, oh, I can't afford a home, and you might have some money put away, and you actually might be able to. You know what I mean? Until you sit down with somebody and talk to somebody who does this. You know what I mean? You can really you can really understand it. Like, wow, okay, maybe I can afford this, or oh, maybe you overestimated how much you could afford. You're like, okay, maybe renting is the better option for me at the moment. But yeah, the one other pro to renting is obviously no property. You don't pay the property taxes, although your rent can go up in terms of depending on what the market is. So, it's like a plus minus. What's the other one I was going to say? I just actually seen something the other day. I actually saw this a couple of weeks ago. It was like an article saying that now the first time home buyer age has increased to 38 years old in 2025. So people are essentially renting till 38 a lot of times now. Like obviously people do buy, a lot younger than that, but they're saying the average first time home, the average is now 38 years old. And every year I look at that number, I'm like always looking at it, and it just continues to go up. I remember it was like 34 a couple years ago. Now it's 38, and just you could tell the trajectory of it is just continuing to go up.
You want to know why?
Why's that?
We're not making families. People not
That's
getting
true.
married. We're not forming families. Usually people buy homes when they get married, when they have a family.
That's true.
We have this individualized culture, so everybody's kind of on their own, male and female, and then so they just say, I'm by myself, I'm just gonna rent an apartment.
Yep. Or it's or if like it's like a 2-income household. That's the thing. A lot of people I know that are purchasing homes. I know a few people who own homes on their own. Like it's a single individual. But a lot of people I know that Rob was saying, a lot of people I know that are purchasing homes, they're like couples that are doing it. You know what I mean? It's like it's either they're planning to like have a family, or like they're in a 2-income household, because it's like, but that's the thing, you're right. I actually didn't even think of that. A lot of it now with like feminism and like, all this
Yeah.
other culture, very individualized lifestyles nowadays, you're seeing less and less of the families, which is really actually very, very sad, to be
Right.
honest.
Right. And I'll tell you this as an experienced agent, the trend is the women are buying all the houses.
Yeah.
Guys, we are falling behind. I'm telling you, 90% of my clients are single women buying a house. 90%. It's
Wow.
crazy. Like, and there was an article about that, and I'm like, that's so true because I see that in my real life. Is that I have a lot of female clients buying a house by themselves all the time, or a single mom buying a house by herself all the time. So it's crazy. So that article saying women own more homes than men, like single women
You see
own
it
more homes than
firsthand.
single men. It is very true. Very true.
Dude, you know what? It makes a lot of sense, because I know a lot of single women that own homes too. It's crazy, man.
Hmm
It's just, it's crazy. Man, what are we doing? We're falling behind, guys.
Man, what we
We gotta
doing?
step
It's
up.
a good thing. I applaud the women. They're doing a great job. Like,
Yeah.
but like I said, it's because we're not forming families anymore. A lot of individual culture. So the women just going off buying homes by themselves, and the men they just say screw it and just chilling, renting or
Yep.
or or just whatever they're doing. So
Man, it's true though. It's crazy. I didn't even look at it from like a familial standpoint. That's so true, man. So that age is just gonna probably just continue to climb. It's not even so much
yes,
the economy plays a factor, but it's like it's not even just that. It's just as long as this ideology continues, like it's gonna be that number is just gonna continue to climb.
yes. I mean, think about it. Back in the day, it used to be, the men and women get married and then they buy a house together, or the women live at their father's house until they find a husband, and then the husband and the wife buy a house. But obviously, that's we in modern age is not like that anymore. So the trend I'm seeing is a lot of single women just buying houses by themselves. Some men do, but mostly just single women buying houses by themselves.
It makes a lot of sense. We got to I was just listening to a podcast the other day, and they were just talking about that. It was basically a panel. It was a mixed panel. It was men and women, and then they were just it was like a lot of the individual culture today, like between it was like some feminists were on there, and it was like a lot of guys who were like, heavy red pill to like, you know what I mean, to the point where they're like, I don't want to get married, I don't want to have a family and everything. And they were just trying to challenge the ideology of it, and they're saying that that's like, honestly, that plays a role in like the economy too, right? Like back in the day too, like there was traditional sense, right? People say like, oh, they can't. So it's like weird. People say like they can't. Obviously, like with this economy, people are like, we can't afford like on a single income. But a lot of it is because now we have like it's not just it's men. Like back in the day, like a man could just work, right, and then the woman could stay home with the kids. It's like nowadays everything with both sexes working like intensely, like it's just actually driving the economy up. Like it's everything becomes more expensive in a way. It's
Hmm
like, yeah, but
Yep.
it's
And it's just a trend, and like you said, with the economy, most of the time for people to afford a home and a living, they need two incomes. Like the average person, they're gonna need two incomes, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's just how it is. So
yeah.
that's the trend that we see in 2025.
Right. Especially I would say like two incomes if you're dependent on the area you live in too. Like in the northeast sector of the US, like it depends, like Jersey, Philly, New York, like houses are expensive, right? Like you go to the Midwest, property values may be, cheaper. Obviously you go to the West Coast, you go to California, it's gonna be, crazy. But
Hmm
it depends on the market you live in too. But a lot of times people, like if you tell someone like, oh, like just move down south or move to like the Midwest, most people don't, depending on like where their families live and stuff, don't want to just drop everything and do that too. So like that plays
hmm
a factor as well.
Very true. Very true.
But yeah, it becomes challenging. Like Rob said, like it's like a lot of it is like two incomes, and some people will rent until I guess they start a family too. That's another thing. Some people will just continue to rent because they'll be like, oh, I don't see a point in like owning a home, even though like if you can afford to do it, you like we said, the pros of home ownership is you build equity.
Hmm. Yeah, and another reason barrier is credit. A lot of people's credit are screwed up. Um, that's one thing I really gotta harp on. You gotta have good credit, to get a mortgage. Like, you got to have
Yeah,
good credit. That's one of the biggest barriers to getting
100%.
a mortgage to get a house. So that's the pro of renting. Nobody. I mean, landlords we still check your credit, but we're not that deep into it like a mortgage lender. A mortgage lender, they dive deep into your credit. A landlord
Yeah.
just want to see that you're above a threshold and you're good to go.
Right. They basically want to see that you're going to be at least trustworthy to make the monthly rental payments.
Yeah.
Versus like a bank is lending you money. It's like literally lending you money.
Right.
It's like, yeah,
Hundreds of thousands.
yeah, exactly. They ain't just lending you a little 20 G's, 10 G's. They're lending you hundreds of thousands of dollars. So it's like they're going to be strict on it. That's so true. Credit is so important too. I remember you were telling me about that when me and Bryce were doing UWE, like doing the credit, like working with the credit repair companies and stuff. No, like so many people struggle with their credit. Like so many people probably come to you and it's like, yeah, no, like it with credit plays a big role in like the mortgage that you're going to be able to obtain, or it could just be make or break for you.
Hmm. Yeah, it plays
So
a huge role. So
yeah,
I harp on that. Gotta get your credit tight, um, before you look into getting a house for sure.
exactly. And also, another thing to play into it too is, how much you're depending on like how much you can afford for a home too is going to be what your debt obligations are too. So if you're financing a vehicle and the say the payment is outrageous, like $1,000 a month or something, that plays a big role in how much mortgage you can afford. It also depends on how much you make too, I'll say. But say like your car payment is, 40% of what you make or 50% of what you make. That's the problem with car notes is like they're not capped like mortgages are. So some people really over leverage on cars nowadays. Or even your student loans can play a factor too. So if you have student loans, if you have you know, if you have a car note, like other debt obligations that you're paying, say you have credit cards, that you have to pay down, that all goes into how much you can ultimately afford because that's going to go into your percentage of like like after like your principal and your monthly payment. Remember we were saying the 28%. Now how much are your debt obligations? So it depends on how that really factors into how much house you can afford.
Right, right. Yeah. I always say it's your income, your debt, and then your credit score. That really factors in how much house you can get. So they look at your income and then they look at what you owe right now, and then they factor, like we were saying earlier, the 47% of your gross income per month, and that will determine how much mortgage payment they'll let you handle, and then that determines your budget. So this is why if you have, a husband or a wife, you guys can put two incomes on the mortgage application, and that increases your gross monthly income on the application, which then increases your budget. So you can get a bigger house, a better house,
Ex-
because you have two incomes.
exactly. So say if like you're like you make $100,000 a year and your wife makes $100,000 a year, now you go from $100,000 to a $200,000 gross income, and that
Right,
can double the amount that you can afford.
right,
which
right.
is which is huge. Which is why I see like a lot of couples that are buying homes now. I see single people buy homes too, but I see much more people who are couples buying homes nowadays. I'm not sure about for you. Like you said, you see a lot of single women coming in and buying homes, but do you get a lot
Yeah,
of couples too?
yeah. So when it comes to big budget, like the big budget people, it's usually couples. Just like I said, they have two incomes, so their budget's higher. So
Yep.
whenever I'm like with a $500,000 client, 600,000, it's usually a couple. But when
Yeah.
I'm with, like, average, it's usually a single person because they only have one income.
Right.
So yeah.
Yep. Exactly. It's like yeah. So because like if you're making, you know, $50,000 a year, it's going to be very hard for you to, even as a single person, buy a home. It's going to be extremely
Yeah,
difficult.
yeah. You can buy a home, but you won't be able to. Your budget will be limited. You probably can buy only up to maybe 250, 300.
Right.
But if it's a
Exactly.
couple, like Steve said, both making 100,000, they can buy up to 500 because both their incomes are calculated in the application.
Exactly. And that 50K, if you only make it 50K as a single person, you also have to factor in those debt obligations. Like if you got
Right.
over $1,000 worth of monthly debt obligations, that's significantly going to limit you to what you can afford too.
Yeah, you probably get denied.
Yeah, exactly. Rich,
Yo,
what's up, brother?
what's up, guys? Can you hear me clearly?
Yeah, bro. Here you
Yes,
go.
How y'all
sir.
doing?
What's up, bro? Take that down. There you go. What's up, man? Thanks for joining in, bro.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me. Thank you for having me.
No problem, man. We're just talking about some pros and cons. We were just talking about we were just talking about essentially like the pros and cons of renting versus home ownership. Um and basically just what we were just talking about, like right before you came on, is we were just saying like how like people's budgets essentially, like a lot of, like Rob said, he sees like a lot of the bigger ticket, like, $500,000, $600,000 homes is typically couples that are coming in to buy, like versus like, the smaller homes like 250, 200. It's like you're usually going to see like a single person buying. But Rob was saying, he said a lot of us men were falling behind here. A lot of women, single women, are out here, are the ones buying
Yep,
these homes.
they're killing it. I'm telling you, they're killing it.
Yep.
That's true,
They're
and
buying
I did see
everything.
that. Yeah, no, I agree with Rob, man. I see that statistic out there. Single women are high, college educated. A lot of college educated single women, a lot of single women with kids. A lot
Hmm.
of men, I've seen the main argument that a lot of us make is that, a lot of these women are getting like child support money and stuff like that when they have kids, and they use that to
Oh, they got it
supplement
for divorce. Yeah, I hear that too.
the overall income. But, they don't, I mean, a lot of that money goes to the kids though, especially if they're a single mom and they're taking care of the kids full time and have full custody. But, yeah, man, I think that, men are falling behind. I just think that, a lot of men rent. I rent. I think a lot of us rent, bro, and but that doesn't have to be the case. I think that's the climate. And you have to look at things like military experience and things of that nature. Because I know that most guys who are in the military, they get approved for a house pretty quickly.
VA loan.
So and the numbers in the military, as we know, have gone down,
Hmm.
compared to in the past. There used to be a lot more people in the military now, whereas now it's all voluntary military, so it's hard to find folks to come in. And the divorce rates in the military are also high at this time. There's a lot of infidelity, a lot of things going on in the military, so this causes a lot of these families to split, houses to get sold, or things of that nature. And a lot of men move out or moving around, have jobs that have us moving around a lot. So
Yep.
that's the nature of the game. There's a lot of guys with their CDLs, your truckers and things of that nature, that type of culture. And
Right.
it doesn't really, it's not really thing that is going to have men wanting to buy houses or keeping
Right.
something long term when you have a job that constantly has you travel. So that's one thing, is like, how many women truckers are there versus how many men truckers you're looking at. Well, a lot of these guys who are making this money, a lot of those truckers are making high five figures, probably six figure salaries, but they're not going to buy a house because it's not the thing to do for those guys in that culture.
Right. And we were saying there's absolutely nothing wrong with renting. There's definitely a lot of pros to it. We were just saying it just depends on your strategy and like what you're looking for. But long term, we both agreed, long term owning a house is way better. But short term renting, if your lifestyle can't handle ownership, renting is perfectly fine.
Yep.
Yeah, I agree.
And we were also saying like too, like you essentially might be able to rent in a nicer area versus like buying a home in that same area might just not be in your budget. You know what I mean? It's just,
Right, right.
so it could be a big difference. We gave the city as a perfect example, Rich. So Rob was saying, you might be able to rent something downtown for 1,800, maybe 2,000 a month, versus like if you go to buy in center city, for example, like it's going to be like $1
Millions.
million. Like
Yeah.
it's going to be crazy. So
Right,
it's big difference.
Yeah,
right.
that's a big difference, most definitely. And people have kids and stuff like that too. That sometimes, like families together. I don't know if you know the statistics or not, but um, I don't know if there's like more single women getting houses than actual families, like nuclear families. Because like that's another one I'm kind of
That's a
curious to
good
hear
stat.
about.
Yeah, that's a good stat. I don't know that.
Especially with the divorce rate, and especially with like um especially with the fact that parents have things to consider like school districts and things, whereas like a single woman doesn't have to really think about stuff like that. Like,
It's true.
like people with families got to consider neighborhoods and stuff, like you were saying. And that family may not be able to afford a house but want to move into that really nice neighborhood for the good school district for their kids, and so they end up
Hmm.
going for renting instead of buying. um,
Hmm.
so those are certain scenarios and situations where like a single person in general probably won't even have to think about versus like a family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
School districts definitely play a factor. School districts will also play a factor on your property taxes as well, for sure. So if you're in a really, really good school district, your property taxes are probably going to be high.
Crazy.
It's just
Hmm.
going to be crazy. Like my cousin, she lives in like Fort Washington. Her and her husband, they make good money. They're both lawyers, but they don't have any kids, but they're still paying like $12,000-13,000 a year in property taxes. It's insane. It's insanity. It's literally like a mortgage per month for your property taxes alone. Like it's
Alone.
crazy. Literally like $1,300 a month in property taxes. Like it's
Mm.
crazy.
Right.
But hey, if you live in an area with a fantastic school district, that's what you're going to be paying.
And yeah, we were talking about that, Rich. Steve was saying he's tracking a stat of how like the average age of the first homeowner went from 34 to 38, right?
38.
Over the
Yep.
years. And I was telling Steve the reason for that is because of our modern culture. We're not making families. We have we have an individualized culture, where everybody's sticking to themselves, and people are not getting married as much, not creating families as much, people are not having kids as early as much. So that trend is, I think, is going along with that, causing single women to buy a house mostly now. There's not that much families come together, get married, and buying homes. So the average age of the first time home buyer is going up because people are not, creating families. And usually, as we know back in the day, when you start having kids, start having family, people are like, yeah, this apartment's getting too small. We're gonna buy a house. But as you know, that trend is um, different now.
Yep. It's crazy, the individual lifestyle. I think a lot of people see social media, they see this, they see that, and then they like compare their own life. Like, I want to be this, I want to live this way. And it's like it's just become, and everybody's different, but I just think one of the most, we literally were talking about legacy last week, me and Rob, and it's just like, I think one of the most, at least to me, like this is my personal opinion, one of the most rewarding things is being a parent. I'm not one yet biologically, but you know what I mean. It's just one of the, and building a legacy. It's like, but we're really getting away from that culture a lot nowadays. Feminists on the women's side, and then Red Pill Wild offers some good advice. Red Pill also a lot of times promotes like not marrying. You know what I mean? Not create, like, you can create a family, but it's like it's not, people just not living together, or it's like, so we're getting away from that for sure. In
Right.
this day and age, we're definitely getting away from it.
And I'll say this: I don't think it's just the culture. I think the economy plays a part. Things are a lot expensive. All the many other factors play a part. So I'm
Yes.
not gonna just say it's the culture. I mean, we affected by it. Like I don't have a family myself, so
Right. Me either.
like, so I'm not gonna try to sit. I'm not shifting blame. I'm just saying this is just the state that we're in. So I think it's just. just how it's going in modern age.
Can I
Yeah.
also say, I do think it's the type of government that we have too. We live in a capitalist society that is highly values, like you mentioned, social media, looking at what other people got. This culture is programs us to be consumers, and so what that means for the average, young adult, is that the first thing that they see when they go on Instagram is cars and athletes and money. And the money is highly valued, but the spending the money and the things that you get with the money, I would argue, is even more highly valued than actually saving the actual money. Um, and so what that does, it puts into a culture of competition, right? um what what car do I have, and houses are valued highly, but they're not valued as much as, say, what you see on there. You see a lot of jewelry, you go on social media, you see a lot of change, you see a lot of diamonds, you see a lot of cars, right? You see a lot of just things that are everyday Amazon culture, everyday
Non
yeah.
non assets, like a lot of liabilities. That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah, a lot of liabilities, man. This society values a lot of liabilities, man. And cars are good. Cars are awesome. I love cars. That's my hobby. You already know, guys. I love cars. I go to car meets. I've switched cars so many times. I'm at fault for this,
Yeah, I
But
love
when you
cars
grow
too.
up and you start to get older and you start to develop and you start to catch on to some of the things that's been happening, you start looking at your checkbook, which you've been spending your money on in the past couple of years. You start realizing, yo, I'm falling into this culture of, hey, look, this is why we have to become savers instead of spenders and consumers. Um, so you're either going to be a person who is an owner or a consumer in the society. This is how the society has set things up to be. Um, you can own your business, you can own your craft, you can own some of the things that you value in your life. But there's people out here right now who don't even own their daily activities. You know what I mean? They don't even own, they're not even genuinely their self because they're trying to fit a social media um trend, or they're trying to, some people don't even own their own interests. You know what I'm saying? So you gotta, even on a smaller scale, learn how to own some things in your life before you can even think about being able to put yourself in a position to own a house or to own an empire. And so that's what I'm seeing with a lot of young people. And I'm listen, I'm working on myself too. I think all of us have things that we're working on when it comes to ownership, whether it's a certain mentality, certain activities on a daily basis. But you got to learn how to own some of those small scale things before you own the big things. And once you learn how to save when it comes to money and have a good relationship with money, I think that's the issue with our generation, is that we've just been bred and taught. There's no economics. I mean, excuse me. There's no budgeting in schools, and that's not by accident. Our society is trying to breed consumers, not owners. And this is why. And some states, it has different rules. You own land, you can build a house on that land, you can build stuff. And yeah, there may be a little taxes here and there, but it's not to the level of property taxes or it may be in other states. And so that's what I have to say, is that some parts of this government in some states, they try to discourage ownership in some states because of the high property taxes. Some of that is has to do with paying for the services that are provided in that county and in that area, such as education and law enforcement and firefighters and things of that nature. That's true, but there's also an element to it too, where they're trying to um, keep out a certain tax bracket of people from being
For
able to
sure,
own homes.
for sure, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, the government does that a lot with property taxes. That's actually a way of kind of controlling the population that the government does by by raising the taxes high in certain areas and keeping the taxes low in other areas. It's kind of a way of control that the government does. So that's very true. They used to do that a lot when they had discriminatory practices. by using the taxes to keep people out of certain neighborhoods. So it's
Yep.
very true.
It's like a form of segregation almost. It was like keeping you separated out of like yep. It's what do they used to what's another like another practice that's considered illegal and highly unethical in real estate? Steering like clients away from a certain
Redlining.
area. Yep,
Yeah,
redlining, steering.
redlining. Yep.
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 Which essentially like a client wants to go look at this a certain area with a specific demographic, the agent tries to steer you a different way, like, oh, why don't you check out this area instead, almost because they don't want essentially your kind or your race or whatever to live in that area. So what they'll do is they'll try to, is it obviously
Right.
completely illegal and unethical, but yeah.
Right.
This
And
happened with
now,
an Asian woman that I know in Cherry Hill. She said that they only showed her Asian neighborhoods. And she said the real estate agent, she was like, wait, well, why aren't we going here? Like, she would send the real estate agent certain houses and stuff, and the agent would come back and she would only take her to some of the houses that were in Asian areas,
that's messed up.
and she wouldn't take her to some of the other areas.
That's
That's so
crazy.
messed up. It should go essentially like to your location preference and your budget, like what you can afford
Yeah.
in like your area,
Yeah.
It's-
Yeah. Money talks. Money
Exactly.
talks in real estate. That's it. That's the only thing that matters. So, I mean, but like you were saying, but the government uses taxes as a kind of veil to kind of keep. They could say that they're doing it for neighborhood purposes to make the fund the government services, but at the same time, at least with Shellham Township, oh my goodness, like Shellham Township's taxes are so high. Most like clients that come to me that want to buy there, they can't because of the taxes. So literally only people in a certain tax bracket can move to Shellham Township. It's crazy. So
It is. And
this
of
is
course,
how
your
it is.
government's not going to come out and tell you that they're doing that on purpose. Of course, they're just going to do it as like a little method to like, oh, we're just, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, of course, they're not going to come out and say like, oh, we're trying to essentially use population control or like tax, you know what I mean? That's, yeah,
Right.
of course, because it would sound wrong if they told the truth.
And I'm not gonna say they doing it for discriminatory purposes. I'm not gonna say that because we can't really, pin that down. But at
Right.
the same time, we know the higher the taxes, people in certain income bracket cannot buy a house there. They just can't.
Yep. Exactly. That was a good point. It's just, yeah. So it's like Rich was saying on the individual side of it too, like a lot of people, like people are also take it like, so in terms of like homeownership, people take advice from like influencers on social media too, right? Like Rich was saying, not everybody owns their own interest. So somebody might see, these individual, very like single influencers who are very individualistic, and they may try to emulate a specific lifestyle as well. I saw something crazy, like, you guys know who, you guys have heard of Wes Watson, right? Like, I don't know if you hear what, like, he was saying, he said he's renting, he's bragging about his renting his $96,000 a month condo or something crazy.
Yeah,
He's a
scammer.
multi-millionaire, $96,000 a month. But you know what? People will like see that and be like, oh, like, see, this is a successful guy. Like, you know what I mean? Like, like I said, there's nothing wrong with renting, but like, to me, like $96,000 a month renting, you're giving money to someone else, and he was just justified every way about it. But I'm saying, like, some people don't always live for themselves. They see, like, where social media back in like our grandparents, our parents' age wasn't a thing. You know what I mean? There was more families. Like, it's not, and that's not social media is not the full culprit, but it definitely plays a part. Like, it's a lot different nowadays, like, than it was. To Rob's original point, very individualistic today.
Right.
Which factors
And I think that's just how it is. I mean, social media is not going away.
No.
I think we just, as human beings, we gotta learn to adapt and maybe adapt to our current state and see how we can make it better. So I think that's just how we gotta look at it.
Yep. And I would say divorce rates are very high today too. So like that plays a factor. People might start in a house and then they might divorce, and maybe they rent or whatever. But you see, in our day and age, in our culture, like, I think, maybe in our grandparents' age, maybe there were some abusive things where maybe, they would stick it out through like everything. and it's like there's like no middle ground here. So like maybe they were in situations where the husband was beating the shit out of his wife, you know what I mean, all the time. It's like, and the woman would still stay, and they would stay together for 50 years. It's like, whereas like in our culture, it's the complete opposite. The first little sign of conflict, someone's running for the hills for getting ready, getting the divorce papers ready
immediately.
to get out of there. You know what I mean? It's just. It's always like a grass is greener syndrome nowadays. Like everybody sees on social, I could live this lifestyle. Girl, you don't need him, or like, yo, bro, dish her, like get rid of her. Now, I don't. Obviously, there's reasons why people divorce too. Like there's toxic situations where people should divorce, but I feel like in our day and age, people are so quick to divorce, like over the smallest things. That plays a factor too.
Yeah, and when it comes to home ownership, divorce is nasty. I've been through those transactions where I'm selling a house that's from a divorce couple. It gets nasty. Oh my gosh. I don't wish that on none of y'all, anybody watching, man. It's nasty. They splitting the proceeds. It just gets nasty. I don't recommend it.
Yeah, you get egos involved, and it gets like real bad.
Yeah, it's bad. they both got to sign because they both in the title. They fighting over signing. The husband don't want to sign. The wife want to sign. Yeah. Then the buyer want to take them to court because they didn't sign. It's crazy.
Yeah. So really think about what you're doing. I mean, obviously some things you just can't prevent, but like be very careful.
Yo, listen, the divorce rate amongst college-educated women is 90%, man. There's college educated women, the divorce rate is 90%. 90%.
That's insane. That's a statistic. That's insane.
Look it up, man. I'm telling you.
I gotta go to McDonald's, bro.
You know what it is too? Yeah, it's crazy. More people got to follow God too, because it's like what did it say in the Bible? It says divorce is only in the Bible justifiable under infidelity, right? Or is there another one too?
It's infidelity, and I think physical and personal harm.
Yeah, abuse. Yeah. So it's like, but a lot of people are so quick to just, you know what I mean? This is like, that's crazy, 90%. Yeah, because they really do say this, right? Women don't date down. So it's like, if you fall on hard, you know what I mean? It's like a lot of college educated women. There's nothing wrong with being educated, but it's just, it's the truth though. This is statistic. They say women don't date down. So
a lot of women are. This is the period in time where we had the most women CEOs, the most African American women CEOs at any point in time in history. And so what that calls for, that means that in those organizations or in those establishments, those places are going to, and this is inevitable. And some people may take this the right way, some people may take this the wrong way. Women are at the forefront of the workplace now. The workforce, women are at the forefront of the high-ranking CEO positions. Look at how many women police commissioners there are now. Look at how many women are high up in the military now. There's no other time in history that this has been like this. And so that could be a good thing in some areas, and that could be a bad thing in other areas. Because if we're looking at terms of tradition and marriages, and there's a lot of ego at play. There's a lot of different things such as income and who's the provider in the situation, and who's the does this person feel like they need that person? If they feel like I've had a woman told me a couple weeks ago, she felt like she is the man now. Like she feels like she is a man, and because she makes a certain amount of money, and because she's like, in her head, she's like, I provide for myself everything that a man provides for myself. So I'm basically the man. So why do I need a man? So that is kind of what the mindset is for a lot of young, not all, obviously not all. There's many successful women who are married. There's many women who are doing well off, who want a traditional family, and that's not to take away from those women, because there's a lot of them out there. But there
Yeah.
is a strong feminist ideology of women who say, "Well, listen, I can do everything that a man can do. I'm basically a man now." And we all know that's not. As men, we all know that's, you know, speaking. I can't speak for y'all, but to me
Energy,
that's baloney.
yeah,
But
energetically, like energy wise, she feels like a man, masculine energy.
yeah,
Obviously we know biologically she's not a man, but
yeah,
but energy wise, she feels like in her masculine energy versus feminine energy, basically. And a lot of women, they want to just be able to settle into their feminine energy. That's the thing that comes with it. That's why it really depends on the personality and the demeanor of the woman too. You know what I mean? Because it's like, it, it's just, it's crazy that statistic is 90%. That's a ridiculously high statistic of a divorce rate at that level. Is crazy.
I think it has to do with need, and respect,
True.
because the women that are college educated, they are at a higher status in society because you're college educated,
They
and
feel
then
they don't
obviously they can use that degree to create resources to make money.
Mhm.
And then if they pair with a man that's maybe not as college educated, or a man that doesn't pull as much money, they might be with him, but over time, if he doesn't kind of, I guess, like, kind of take that load off of her, or like show that he's pulling his weight, that respect, and she don't have the need for him already, and then that respect factor goes down.
That's
And
so
then
true.
because she doesn't have the need and then the respect is down, I'm just gonna divorce. And like Steve was saying, we don't really live in a, principled, godly society like that. So people kind of look at marriages, they don't look at it as very sacred. They kind of look at it as, we're just getting married. So divorce is always an option. So if I don't respect you and I don't really need you,
yep,
hey, I'm gonna divorce you.
Yep. And me and Robert just talking about that a few months ago. We were literally saying people don't take like marriage serious nowadays, as sacred as, you know what I mean. A lot of times it's more for the wedding day, for the ceremony, for what they, it's a lot different. And also, so I had one other point I was going to add to that too.
a lot of people
Damn,
wouldn't get married if they don't have the ring size that they want, and that says a lot. Like that people value the ring size and the diamond more than the actual marriage itself, and that's a physical, worldly possession. If we're coming and we're looking at it as men of God, we're looking at diamonds are nice. It's good to have a diamond. You want to give your woman the diamond that she deserves, or she wants. But you know, in the same sense, in this society, that alone, in many situations, a lot of people, men, you know, in some cases for those people who roll that way, but a lot of women will not get married if they're not getting that diamond size that they want. And so you got to look at the women who are, hey, look, this person's building something, right? That's the traditional mindset. I'm going to stick by that person. This is the person who I'm with. We're going to build together. That's the old school way. But it's not like that no more, right? It's about, hey, listen, if you're not where I think you should be, or you're not where, if you haven't made it yet, quote unquote, or you're not where I think you should be, that time to hit the road. I could probably do better. I could probably find better. And then on top of that, if you can't get me the diamond size that I want, I ain't marrying you. You can't get me that. I got a diamond size that I've wanted for whatever. I talked with my girlfriends about this. This is what I want. We've all talked about that. And
that's why.
they're more worried about people judging you on your diamond size. Oh, that's not a big diamond. Stuff like that. Social media again, you know.
That's
Yeah.
why.
Yeah.
That's why as a man, it's so important to understand. Like that, like you have to see if like what's this woman's relationship with God too. You know what I mean? That's why it's so important. It's like we get caught up with capitalist society. We also talked about this too, like to Rob's point there, like about the respect thing too, right? Like I always say
Hmm.
respect comes before love for a man, for sure. Like if a woman, even if you are making less than your woman, what are you doing as a man though? Are you leveling up? Are you working on leveling your life up? If you get stagnant, very complacent, that will cause a woman to, on all like we lose respect for you, because man, we're naturally built to be providers, we're naturally built to be protectors, you know what I mean, and we're built to be leaders. So it's like, yeah, like just from the financial aspect, your woman could be a lawyer or a doctor and be making fantastic money, but even if you like say are making like a little hundred something thousand a year, you got a business, you're doing something, you're building purpose, you're bringing something to the world. Your woman can show you something
Right.
to, you're bringing something forth that your woman can respect.
Right.
Is very important too. I think
I
some men
agree.
get so
Amen.
complacent. You know what I mean? They
I
see the
agree.
woman making big money and they're just like, oh, I can sit on my ass and do nothing. It's like, yeah, no, that's not gonna fly.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, I
different.
agree. We got to
Yeah.
hold the men accountable as well.
Yes.
A lot of men are complacent. You can't if you like you said you dating a woman who's a lawyer, a doctor, or whatever. But you just sitting on your butt eating Cheetos all day. How can she? How can she
Literally.
respect that? Like she cannot respect that. Like, and then
Oh,
she's carrying the load and also doing the housework. Like I know some men that try to do that. It's like I don't blame her for wanting to leave you. She can't respect that. And like Steve was saying, if you call yourself the leader of the house, you got to be. Leadership comes with responsibility.
yeah.
So it's not just about money. It comes with so much more than that. So you're responsible for the physical health of your house, the spiritual health, the financial health. Even if you're not making them, she's making more money than you. You can still be managing. Make sure the house is good in that sense. And I'm sure your woman will love that. So we gotta hold the men accountable as well.
I agree.
Exactly, 100%. This is definitely not just the podcast. We're just bashing women here. It's like, it's for sure. Men need to step up. Men need to start being men again, because you just see so many weak men nowadays. It's like men need to start becoming men again. They're definitely lacking in that regard.
I
And then
agree. And
I
that's
was gonna,
society though. You know what I'm saying? That's
yeah,
my
hundred
point in it,
percent.
is that the capitalism in this society affects both sexes in a
Yep.
certain way. So a lot of men may have given up and lose the motivation because they're living in a society where it's not motivating men. It's not uplifting men. So, you know what I'm saying, that a lot of men don't want to be uplifted. A lot of men don't have motivation. A lot of men aren't putting in the work that they should be putting in.
Here,
Um, what
yeah.
culture is providing that platform for men? Think about it. What form of music, what form of culture is motivating men to, like Rob said, sit on their ass and eat Cheetos? What kind of culture is promoting men to get things in a legal means of way instead of going to work? Oh, work a 9 to 5 is corny. You
I'm
know
not.
what I'm saying?
Yeah,
What
is that
culture is giving that? You know?
exactly? I think some dudes too, like some guys, they think just because they got a penis between their legs, like, oh, they don't have to do no. I'm a man. I'm this. This is what I deserve. This is what I was like. Nah, like you have to earn. You have to earn like that right. Like it's not. That's not given. And I like how Rob said too, it's not even just about money. Yes, money's important because you can provide for your family. You can provide financial security for your family with money. But it goes deeper than that. There's so many weak men that might be making good money, but they're still not a leader. You know what I mean? They can still
Mm-hmm.
not be a leader. They might not carry themselves as a leader, you know?
Right.
So
It's
it,
true. They're paying for OnlyFans over there,
so
sitting
for
down on
real.
OnlyFans and stuff like that. Just
Meanwhile, they're
paying,
married to their wife and they're paying for
and they
OnlyFans
got
on
a
the
whole
side. You know
family
what I
at home.
mean?
Yeah, they got a whole
Crazy.
family at home. Like Miss Stone said at the bottom, she just said, "I love to see the percentage of infidelity, emotional and physical abuse there is for that percentage of those women that have left. There's that's valid.
And the
That's a
Bible
valid
and the
statement.
Bible states
It's a
those
lot
as,
of things that
yeah, as
men are
reasons.
doing in these marriages that they're not right, right? And there
Yeah.
maybe it's cheating, maybe it is that some of the things that I mentioned previously, and all that stuff factors into those statistics.
Facts.
And let's be honest with you, let's be honest with the situation, excuse me, is that it's not about men versus women. It's about how men are affected and how women are affected in this society and this culture. Why is it that weren't given budgeting classes growing up? Why is it that the main thing that was pushed to us in our culture was the popular culture, right? They call it the popular culture for a reason. And in the popular culture, what is that pushing us towards? What type of mindset? What type of definition of man is that culture leaving for us in our communities? And what type of definition of woman is that leaving for our cultures, our communities? You know what I'm saying? Look at the type of artists that our cultures are listening to nowadays, and look what they're pushing on us. They don't. Do you think they're pushing tradition? Do you think that they're pushing togetherness between men and women? Do you think that they're pushing, um, budgeting? Do you think that they're pushing earning your money and your income in a legitimate way? And then you start to realize, okay, well, this is why we don't have many homeowners. This is a factor too.
Yeah, no, it's also like what societies consume, and I'll always say this is I'm not like a huge follower of Fresh and Fit, but I always remember something that Myron has said on that podcast before. There's like he's like, we drop you gems on these Money Mondays with the financial episodes. Like we're talking real estate, we're talking crypto, we're talking investing, but those episodes don't get the hits that the entertainment episodes do on the after hours, like the when you bring the women on and the drama. That just goes to show, as a society, what is it that people are choosing to consume nowadays. You know what I mean? It's crazy. It's like this is what people are choosing to consume, because it's you don't have to use your, what they call it, TikTok brain. You don't have to use your brain to like consume this. It's mindless entertainment. But a lot of times, while technology can always be good, it can also be a bad thing too, because it's like a lot of distractions. And I think when it comes down to it, going back to even just the real estate conversation, with a lot more single women owning homes versus men, a lot of women are essentially becoming more masculine, and more men are becoming more feminine. The dynamic is shifting a lot, and I think we can easily see it. Look at all the male feminists now that you see are coming out. It's like, it's crazy. And like, so there's a lot of men that are becoming more like women, and more women that are becoming like men. It's becoming so backwards. And I hear a lot of women talk about this too. They say that so many men nowadays are so weak. There's so many like soft and weak men that just aren't leaders. Like there's women that are literally complaining about it. So it's both. Yeah. We both play a part in this, both sides of it. We both play a part in this for sure.
Most definitely,
Sure.
man. It takes two to tango.
Sure.
Most definitely.
And that translates to the real estate market. It translates. It's,
Yeah,
like Rob said, he sees it. He sees all these single women coming in by home. You literally see it.
Yeah. I would say in my career, 85% were single women buy homes. I'm telling y'all, it's single moms or a single woman every time. And it's funny because like I got so used to it. When I would talk to a female client, I usually have questions for them, like, all right, who's all moving? Who's the family? And when I'm talking to women, I assume they don't have a husband, or there's no man moving in with them. I think maybe 5 to 10% of my clients were like a married client, like, hey, like me and my wife buying together. But most of my clients are single women. Like I said, I cheer them on. Hey, they making me money and then buying houses. So I cheer them on. But it's like, I just thought of that dynamic, like, wow, like, what is going on?
Yeah.
So,
Rob, I even remember like the years and years ago, like the couple like clients that you did refer to me for credit were women. Like but now that I think about it, it was like there were no men. That like it was women. Those two or three that you referred over. So it's wow. It's just, man, we got to step our game up.
yeah, and I'll tell you this story, and it kind of made me, kind of upset. Kind of maybe upset a little bit at men. Like I had a married client, right, and it was, a wife and a husband, but it was, there's nothing wrong with it, but the wife was making all the decisions, and the husband had no clue. He just came in at closing, kind of like don't know what the heck is going on. Probably didn't even know what house he was buying. They didn't put any money to the table. His wife was there and did the whole transaction with me, worked with me, made sure everything was good. Obviously, she was trusting me. She was calling me like I'm her husband. She was calling me all the time like I'm her husband. After she bought the house, she's calling me to help her fix stuff. I'm like, in my head, I'm like, where is her husband? He lives with her. He lives with her, but she's calling me. That made me very upset with men. It's like, I'm not mad at her because she knows I'm competent and I can help her. But I'm like, you have a husband, but you're calling me to help your stuff with your house?
Spectator.
Fix this, fix that?
He's a spectator, man. That's not a leader.
Crazy. Nah, he's just living.
I was like, wow. Wow.
That's crazy. It's funny that you say that. That book by that guy Jason Wilson, The Man the Moment Demands. He actually says it. I was listening to the audiobook, and he actually says in the book, like him and his wife took a trip to the Maldives, and the staff that works at the place, like where the resort that they're staying at, they're going up to the wife and asking her all the questions. Oh, do you like this, Mrs. That? He had to like acknowledge and be like, hey, like, like I'm here, excuse me, I'm here too, like, or whatever. And they're like, yeah, we're just so used to like the woman handling like the money and handling the room, handling all this. Like they're so used to like the woman handling it for their man. Like this is becoming an increasing thing. He actually had to have a conversation with them. And they're like, oh, like they weren't used to a man like stepping in, like and saying something. It's like, bro, the dynamics are just shifting.
And I think what bothered me, it wasn't the fact that his wife was leading the whole thing, was in charge. That's okay. You could set your wife to do that, but it was the fact that he was incompetent and his wife had to rely on me and couldn't rely on him.
It wasn't choice. It was
crazy
like,
to me.
She had to. She didn't have
right,
a choice.
Right.
It's
that upsetted me. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, what are you doing as a man to make your woman feel safe with you? Like, I mean, shit, like you're not providing. Like, what are you doing? Like, what type of? That's sad, man. That's really sad.
I feel like he was a child. He was one of her kids moving in with her. Like that's what I feel like. It's crazy.
Right.
That might be the dynamic at home,
It's definitely the dynamic at home. If you're seeing it there, like the fact that she's calling Rob up to like fix it, like, where's your husband at? That's how you know that that's a dynamic at home.
Talks to him like a little kid too. So like,
probably
get over here, yo.
I'd be surprised.
And unfortunately, that situation might just wind up leading. If they're, I don't know. You said they were married.
Yeah, they're married. They're still married.
Okay. I was gonna say, but if things don't change, like down the line, that could, lead to lack of respect for the man, and then,
listen, Rob, I'm a therapist, man. Send him my way. Therapist, send him my way, man.
Yeah, I hope they're able to stay together. Hopefully, he just gets his shit together. Like it's just like, dude, you got to step up, man. That's crazy. It's like, what are you bringing to the table, man? But that's crazy. But yeah, no. So guys, you see it in just even back to the real estate discussion. You start to see it in this market. But I know we talked a lot of the pros and cons at the very beginning, and we got into like a whole other discussion here. But that's how a lot of these episodes go. We get into some good deep discussion, and that's how it's not even planned. Like we just have at least it's something interesting. But so we went through the pros and cons of homeownership versus renting. Hopefully that'll help you guys to understand, a lot of it is based off of your preference, freedom of location, your budget, different things like that. So just understanding, and if just understanding what your situation is will kind of help you understand. Like I said, Rob is a real estate agent, so he can help you with your needs. Like if you're in the Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, like PA area, Pennsylvania, he also works with New Jersey clients too. So hit Rob up, Laventure Real Estate Group.
Yes, sir. Laventure Real Estate Group. That's my development company, and I'm also a licensed agent. So hit me up anytime.
Yep.
Any programs you guys need, let me know.
Yep, hit Rob up, and if you are watching this episode and you don't, I link your guys' names in the description of the video. But if you guys have any trouble in like getting a hold of him, just reach out to me and I'll refer you right over to Rob. I'll get you connected with him for sure. And also like those first time home buyer programs too. He can help you out with those too, helping you locate some things. So if you qualify, so for sure. But fellas, I don't want to hold you guys up too long. I mean, we're over the hour mark. But just want to say I appreciate both of you taking the time out to come on. Like as always, whenever we get together, these episodes are usually fire. So this was a good, informative episode. Appreciate you guys.
Yes, sir. Great discussion as always.
Awesome.
Definitely some gems dropped, and hopefully we get better as a society.
100%. Yeah, we definitely need to get better for sure. So men,
it starts with us.
Yeah, it starts with us exactly. So for sure, guys. I was gonna say, guys. The next couple of weeks got some good episodes. 218 next week. My boy Joey lives out in Oklahoma is coming on. He's going to kind of talk about how he went from like having $1,000 in his pocket to kind of building a legacy out there. And then in 2 weeks, we got Pastor Rich knows him, Pastor Mike McAvey, I think is like how you say his last name. He's over at Accelerate Church over in Cherry Hill. He's going to talk about how he went from troubled youth to pastor. So we're going to have him on in 2 weeks. Got a couple solid episodes coming up, guys. So definitely tune in. And then I think as August comes, we'll have to get back to. I haven't done a sports one in a while. I'm gonna have to do some Eagles talk. Going into August for sure. We'll have to definitely hop on for that.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me, man. Again, and I definitely starts with the men, but the women right now, most of them, they got the control right now. Let's be real about it. They got the control of a lot of these organizations, a lot of these societies. In terms of CEOs and big companies and hire. Even for me, like I work for women. You know what I'm saying, and happily so. They're amazing people, and so women are advancing, and so men, we got to catch up. We got to catch up, and I agree with that 100%. Women have the control right now. We gotta bounce back. I'm glad that we have podcasts like this though, to bring it one to our attention, and two also to highlight the overall for everyone, such as the pros and the cons overall for everybody. So I think that everybody should watch this podcast because it's going to give some knowledge. We're going to have some hard conversations. Hey, listen, we're going to say things on here that everybody's not going to like. But one thing for sure is always going to be real. It's always going to be up front. It's always going to be in your face. And it's always going to keep you locked in.
Yep.
Hey,
there you go. I like how you put that there. Locked in pockets. Don't keep you locked in. And I would challenge you, though. The first time you might hear something you might not like, just listen to the discussion and then hear where our points are coming from, and you'll start to understand. You know what I mean? You might not agree with everything, but we're definitely going to keep it real and transparent here. And just to Rich's point right there, yeah, no, women for sure. I was going to say my boss is a woman and her boss's boss is a woman. And then our chief accounting officer is a woman too. Our CEO is a man for the company I work for. But, the chief accounting officer, she was a woman. And when I had a former CFO, when we had the CFO role, she was a woman too. So there you go. Guys, you got to step your game up. Should light a fire under the men out there. You know what I mean? There's nothing wrong with that. That's good. Women are doing, big things out here. It's up to us men to, get it together and start getting back to it too.
Yeah, start matching their energy. Like you said, it's a great thing that women
exactly
get your money. I commend anybody getting their money. I love hustle.
100%. Exactly.
But at the same time, as men, if you want to be leaders, you got to step your game up. So.
Yep.
All right. Don't let them buy all the houses, fellas.
They gonna have no
I got mine, so.
Exactly.
So ladies, I'm with y'all. I'm buying up Philadelphia.
There you go. And it's like, go women. Yep. Y'all, we're all gonna support each other. Hey, there's nothing wrong with it. So, but yeah, fellas, thank you so much. Appreciate y'all. I want to say everybody out there too, and you fellas, happy 4th of July. Have a great 4th of July weekend. I'm sure we'll talk, the three of us, but to everyone else out there, enjoy your time on whatever you're doing. If you're spending time with your families, enjoy it, guys.
Take care.
Take care. Peace out.
Yep. Peace.